Welcome back, fellow time travelers and comic book aficionados. By popular request from my video short, I'm going to present today Super Mario Brothers toys and comics. Ahead of the Super Mario movie coming out in April, I wanted to show you some things from my past that I had related to Mario and Nintendo. There was not a lot to be had out there from the year 1989 to 1990. The only thing we had was an animated cartoon series that was short-lived, various magazines and books, and also comics that featured the red plumber that we know as Mario and Luigi and the magical world of the Mushroom Kingdom. With the Super Mario Brothers movie coming up, the only thing we had back in the day in 1989 was this show right here. We were glued to the TV to see the Super Mario Brothers Super Show, and I enjoyed this VHS right here over and over again. 30 minutes of animated fun featuring Mario and Luigi, two plumbers going through a world with the Koopa and the Mushroom Kingdom. And this video here and the credit playing in the background was all the rave. It was the only footage outside of the video game that we had. And this features Super Sushi making King Koopa Koopzilla, a Godzilla of sorts, and you could see the back artwork there where he stamps through the town and the Mario brothers, Mario and Luigi, have to stop him. But that's the show that we enjoyed, the Super Mario Brothers Super Show, and it was a lot of fun. And now seeing a movie coming up, we're in for a real treat. So before we talk about toys and comics, let's get into the history of the Super Mario Brothers as it dates back to October 18th, 1985. In Japan, the Nintendo was already popular with what was called the Famicom, or family computer, for those to enjoy in the household setting. It was not until later in North America that the Nintendo Entertainment System was released, and there was a little skepticism whether a video game system could thrive and sell back in the day, especially after the video game crash in 1983, where there were tons of games that were not very good quality, most were unlicensed, caused consumers in the United States to kind of be a little leery about purchasing and playing video games. The Atari was known for some great games along the way, but it became saturated, causing the market to just fall out from the bottom. But the Nintendo made its debut despite all odds in major cities during the Christmas season. Hiroshi Yamauchi, the director of Nintendo in Japan, took a gamble and wanted the consoles to be sold in major stores like Sears and other retailers, with the stipulation of whatever didn't sell that Nintendo in Japan would buy back. So that was a bold move. And during that Christmas season, the magical season of 1985, many young Americans had a Nintendo playset equipped with Rob the Robot, also a Zapper, and also later featuring a running trackpad called the Power Pad. So with Nintendo, eventually you were playing with power. You weren't playing with a regular console and a joystick. And I have mine right here, the original one that I played with, hooked up to this TV, and it's playing Super Mario Brothers #1, the first installation. So after Yamauchi progressed and Nintendo was made and debut in North America, the rest was history. And now, as we're sitting in 2023, we have a Super Mario movie on the horizon. So very exciting. And these games right here were much fashioned like a tape. They weren't called cartridges and they weren't called video games, but rather we used to call them tapes. And they look like them too, with this Super Mario #2, which came after this one right here, and also Mario 3. So I played these over and over, and these are from my collection, and just seeing the progression of Mario. But unfortunately, the Nintendo was discontinued in 1995. The Super Nintendo already made its debut in 1990. Now it's enjoyed by a lot of vintage and nostalgic collectors who enjoy time traveling like I do. But these games were all the rave. We looked at the artwork, We fawned over the character, looking at the back for any tips or tricks that we could get, including screenshots of what the action looked like. This was before the internet, and this is all we knew. So without the internet and without video, what did we have? Well, I'm going to show you. So stay tuned. Outside looking at the graphics on the Nintendo screen, much like this, there wasn't much out there, and it caught my eye at one of the local toy stores, a magazine featuring the character and stickers, and this was very interesting. And this is from the Diamond Publishing Company right there. Diamond, they also had stickers, and these right here, this is an unopened pack where you can collect and open these wrappers and place the stickers to collect them all right there. So this is from what I collected back in the day as a kid in 1990, and it was fun. You just read over the stories, you looked at the numbers right here of where to put the sticker, and affixed it there. So you'll notice bricks right there using a special magic decoder, which was in the back. This this little red guy right here, you can go right over the bricks and it'll reveal the name of the character or special tips and tricks for some of these games that were right there. Here we see Diamond Publishing right there. We all know from comic books, Diamond Publishing distributes a lot of books, and this might be one of the earlier ones that we know with the logo there. And look at how these stickers connect. They create Mario. As he touches a mushroom, he becomes Super Mario. We also have a little logo here. And the original Luigi had white overalls instead of the green that we know of. And it's just great to see this early artwork, almost like comic artwork in a way. So flipping the pages, there are a lot of activities. We also see Princess Peach right there. She was called back in the day Princess Toadstool, not Princess Peach. And also a homage to Donkey Kong with the large mallet that we know from putting a lot of quarters into the Donkey Kong machine. But this was a fun way to take what you saw on the video screen for the game and see the artwork elsewhere. So just flipping through pages. We have here the castle in the background. You can see Mario with confidence rescuing Princess Toadstool, and also Toad, as he was called in the earlier references. Toad was called Mushroom Retainer and not Toad. And this is also Mario Brothers 2, so we have some artwork from the second installation, which is right here from this game right there. And a lot of the themes are presented in this collectible sticker book. And this is also a game where you can follow the path and roll a dice and see the various clues. Take one step forward, one step backwards, and see who wins. And we used to put a penny right there to mark our place to know where we're supposed to be. So that was kind of fun. Also, The Legend of Zelda, that's something I got into a little bit later after enjoying the candy-colored world of Super Mario. I learned the overview of the dungeon and lairs of The Legend of Zelda. And we have our hero here, part of him, Link, who wears green. This is a better rendition of Link. And for the longest time, I always thought Zelda was Link. I thought he was the main character. But Zelda is the princess that Link has to save. So, of course, Mario has Princess Toadstool, aka Princess Peach. Link had to rescue Zelda from the evil grips of Ganon using the Triforce. So if that wasn't a mouthful. That's what Nintendo was known for, those fun references there. I always encountered the skeleton creature, Stalfos, and also right here they would shoot out rock projectiles for some of them. The centipede was always giving me nightmares right there. So these are fun stickers, and we're just kind of picking them up right there to put into the book. Autocollants was what they were referred to in the Canada variation, and the artwork is on the front there. even a barcode, folks, back in 1989, but they were around even in the 70s, where we have Mario and the stickers here. So some stickers were for actually wearing, but most of them went into the book. They go right into the book with the photos. So if you ever ran out of stickers, you can look on the box, in the back rather, and you can see where to order more stickers from. But I usually went back and forth to the toy store to get as many as I could and what my parents would allow me, usually 1 or 2 packs at a time. And these were 30 cents each back in the day, which was kind of a lot. And the whole book here was 59 cents. So trying to go back and forth and collect everything was kind of a task that required effort and a lot of patience. I still didn't complete all of it. As you could see, some numbers are missing, but maybe nowadays on eBay with the internet and markets, we can find more of that. So I just wanted to show you the sticker activity album from Diamond Publishing that featured these cool decals and stickers to play with. This is what we had. And the other magazine that we had were Nintendo Power magazines, and the artwork was always fun, and it gave us a glimpse on how to beat our favorite game. There's only a hotline that exists you can call for the Nintendo Power hotline to help you beat the game, like this one here, Mario Brothers, or the others that were in the collection. And I love the claymation artwork. Take a moment to appreciate that. This was during the time of California Raisin and other animated claymation type series. Pee Wee Herman and the Pee Wee's Playhouse also featured some clips of animation as well. But look at these on the cover. This happens to be the first issue, released in August of 1988, and it was the beginning of a very successful Nintendo Power line of magazines. The next one featured some glory haunts of the Castlevania and the Dracula's head. The next one featured the Ninja Turtles, Chippendale Rescue Rangers, including Batman with his video game in the 90s as well. So without Nintendo Power, we couldn't get far in the game. And most Nintendo games were pretty grueling and hard, even parents promising their young one a new game if they could beat it. But it was really hard to beat those games. This features maps and overlays of Super Mario 3. This came out a little bit later in 1990. Back in the day, I thought the changes from Mario 1, 2, and 3 in the Super Nintendo were so long and far apart. But now, with my time traveling element, all of this happened between 1989 and 1991. So with 3 years, we were introduced to 3 video games and just loving the artwork here. It was all about Mario Brothers, and Super Mario Brothers was the famed franchise and poster child of Nintendo, but I did enjoy a lot of other games as well for the system. What else did we have back in the day in the 90s? And we had comic books. Comic books by Valiant. Jim Shooter, a longtime editor of Marvel, created Valiant Comics, which stuck around until 1994 due to issues with bankruptcy and a lack of popularity. But Valiant Comics actually helped us see Super Mario Brothers in a different light, in the comic book medium, not in the magazines that we saw for video game tips or the Nintendo Playing or the Super Mario Brothers Super Show, but right here in the books here. So Valiant Comics was featured in 2 series. One was a hardcover, more of a firm cover book like this that you can hear, a little thicker, and then they had soft cover books that were reprints from the beginning. So this is a trade paperback of various issues all in one. So it's interesting to note that Jim Shooter began Valiant Comics in 1989, and he brought with him some talent that were working alongside him, including George Cargoni, Bill Vallely, and Mark McClellan, who did a lot of artwork in a style that's more like watercolor and more animated, aside from the flashier art that we saw at the time that were part of comic books. So looking at the viewer here, you can see some of the interior artwork that kind of shows that light, whimsical style of artwork that was meant more for younger audiences. It wasn't meant for the adult audience with action and slash and gore, but more whimsical of the magical worlds that we see in the video game. And some of George Caragoni's work and Bill Valeli's work, they were pretty much seen in every issue. So this compilation features Captain N, which is short for Captain Nintendo, the Game Master. He has a video controller, like the one here, on his belt and a zapper to navigate through his adventures. Also features Mike Tyson Punch-Out, his character as well. And we also see The Legend of Zelda with Link looking for his beloved Zelda, and of course Mario and Luigi together. So different stories from the popular front-runner video games were shown in this book here. So it was just a wonderful way to digest and relax from playing video games when you wanted some more. And looking into the pages, we're greeted by an introduction letter, also some nice splash art showing King Koopa, and behind him the enemies that were popular in the game. So as a kid, it was a thrill to see some of the characters reappearing in comic books, and it was the only other alternative than playing the game. And before Mario had his famous go-kart, he was even riding around here with one of the sultans and one of the higher officials of the Mushroom Kingdom. And right there is just some fun artwork. Also, of course, some video game advertisement, some products that were there, a lot of ninja games, because after all, folks, this is the 90s. This was really cool to see the cover of what's to come with the first issue of The Legend of Zelda, which is a popular comic book by today's standard, going above $75 to up to $100 for a higher grade book. So now these comics are becoming a little bit more enticing to the collector. And you can see here Captain Nintendo with Pip or Kid Icarus, and some characters also from an animated series, because Saturday morning cartoons also featured Captain N in the Game Master, and also different characters right there. You could see Mother Brain from the Metroid series, King Kong, also the king here, the Eggplant King from Kid Icarus, and the Hippo, one of the boxers from Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. So they're all masquerading together. So we even have a story with Little Mac, the boxer guy right there with his coach, in a story format. So it's neat to see a little story behind the video game, and practicing and training as well. So kind of fun just to see all that going on. Even this shot here, that famous uppercut that we know from the video game. So all this in a comic book. We have some goofy scenes with Mario, with Luigi trimming his mustache, making it different sizes, and then beautiful layout spread with Zelda on the next page. So this artwork was great. It was Bill Valeli. There's also Art Nichols, who did a lot of work as well, and he was known for doing more detail there. So the last book that we saw was a trade paperback featuring a variety of issues, but this one here happens to be a standalone issue of Super Mario Brothers, and it's a special edition featuring the Super Mario Brothers 3, the video game, which is right here. And some of the artwork and characters are portrayed here to enjoy, and including the famous raccoon tail that helps Mario fly. So in that game here, we see Mario actually flying and using different costumes that help him. And in the new movie coming up, it's going to play and show some of the different costumes that he uses in his adventure. And that's what made Super Mario Brothers very playable. In the very first series right here, he has the super flower that allows him to throw flames. He also has the magic star that gives him temporary invincibility. But Shigeru Miyamoto created the character to have adaptive powers, much like a superhero that we know from Marvel and DC. So that's what made video games very appealing. Not only the exploration of being a character, but also carefully selecting various superpowers and power-ups, as they're called in video games, and using them to your advantage. So that was always fun. The exploration, experimenting with certain powers to defeat the enemy, and progressing through an otherwise difficult game. And this book right here shows some of that. As we open up the pages, we already saw this one in our trade back, but this story is where it originally appeared, including the floating ships that we see in Mario Brothers 3. We also see some consultation with friends, with Toad with the mushroom hat, also going in and out of pipes that Mario is known for. After all, he is a plumber, so that's kind of cool to see that. You see here different characters from the video game, including King Koopa, also some of the children of King Koopa as well. We see a little bit of Mario Brothers 2 with Mouser. He was the bad guy in the second video game. And what's neat about these books, the artist and the people that are participating are not written on the main artwork, but in the corner here, as you can see there. And this one happens to have Mark McClellan, Bill Vallely with the artwork. And you can see that there was a comment about Russ Manning also creating some work. He was known for working on Tarzan, and there could be some of Russ Manning's artwork here, but mostly Mike McClellan, Bill Vallely, and also George Caragoni. This right here happens to be the first ever appearance of Mario flying through space. But it should be noted that Marvel's Blip comics, Blip #1, actually features Donkey Kong, and Mario is the very first appearance in comic books. And those books go well over $100. These from Valiant are the first long-running series featuring Super Mario. And this is issue #2, coming out in 1990, featuring Princess Peach on a flying carpet. The flying carpet was actually in the video game, the second one right here, where we see some of the action. So again, this is from when I was younger, and it's pretty beat up. I've read this over 100 times for sure. And you can see Mario right there and Luigi going through just some everyday adventures. So they're actually going through more cartoon-like adventures as opposed to some crazy action, even hanging out in a vegetable garden with a beanstalk. So the comics were kind of lighthearted, almost reminiscent like of Archie and Mickey Mouse. Ooh, a Ghostbusters ad, that's fun. That's for the video game, including Three Stooges. So we had Ghostbusters and Three Stooges and popular culture making their way onto the Nintendo Entertainment System. With the trade paperback that we saw, an in-house ad. Look at all the detail and the colors. They're very good, either with watercolor or light-colored pencil. And that's what we see. That's escaping into another realm. Issue #2. Also enjoyable was playing the Game Boy, and the Game Boy had his own comic book as well by Valiant Comics. And here we have all of what's happening in the Game Boy come to life in a real world. So that's pretty cool to see that. And the artwork is very detailed, even from the Hershey bar in the background and the the box that the game came in right there. So a lot of detail. To see this was really amazing. And the artwork is by George Caragoni and also features Art Nichols and also Gray Morrow, and they're written right on the corner there. So looking in the corner, usually we see from comic books nice big letters who the inker was, who the different contributors were, but they're kind of quietly tucked away. This was meant to be more like a boutique comic. It wasn't meant to be something that could be disposable. Even the cover is very thick on a cardstock, a lighter cardstock, not the thicker ones that we know from those 90s comics. But it's about a video game store owner actually becoming addicted to playing Game Boy, and the world of Game Boy from Super Mario Land comes to life. So just flipping through, you could see him like a Gulliver Travels fashion being tied down by all the characters. That is quite a sight to see, and a lot of detail as well, including the bad guy right there, of course, kidnapping the princess. This is a fun screenshot. It almost shows the mesmerizing nature of Game Boy kind of controlling the store owner's mind. It almost looks a little bit like Thanos. Maybe there's an uncanny resemblance. Maybe not. But this happens in the shopping center. Of course, the 90s were all about being cool, wearing sunglasses, and going to the shopping center. You can see the escalators in the background. What a neat angle right there. Almost panoramic, very long set panoramic with enemies from the video game. So it's a delight looking at this. Even now, it's just really fun to see that artwork. Look at the shading and the shadow with the brightness of the video game console popping up, and there's our hero, Mario. What a great shot right there. Kind of the turning point of the book. As we know, Mario's gonna do some damage and fix everything. Some in-house ad for the different comic books, including Captain N, the Game Master, and Super Mario Brothers, the next installation. I like that triangle that points to the next year and date. So that's kind of a fun thing to see. And another in-house ad for a compilation. This is another trade paperback right there, the second one. So of course Mario touches the invincible star and saves the day. And another advertisement for a Game Boy game on the back. Quirk puzzle game. Game Boy in comic. And if you couldn't get enough Game Boy, there's another issue right here where in Super Mario Land he rides around in an airplane. And so again, we have this very detailed artwork visiting the house, and there's that every young person in the 80s and 90s had that wood panel TV, which I kind of miss. The cathode ray CRT TV. George Caragoni again. And an interesting note about George Caragoni, he didn't live very long. He lived only to be 29. In his later years, he had a lot of stress and died very young. But he left us with this great work, working for Valiant. Some of the artwork continues right here. And again, we find reality and people in real life commingling with the Game Boy world. So it's fun to see these two different worlds. It's like Roger Rabbit and being in the cartoon world, but with video games. Just nice artwork there. Look at that, taking a shelling right there. An in-house ad for the Captain N, There's an enemy there. Also, the video game with the Magic Kingdom. This was a fun game that I rented over and over again from Blockbuster. Nintendo Power. Now you're playing with power. Any fans out there, you know that slogan very well. There's Mario wrestling with the enemy. And look at that car right there. Pretty groovy. It even flies over water. I have to reread the story to find out what that's all about. You have an aircraft carrier, F-16s, and Mario all at once, and even a Bigfoot on the back. Everything was big and crazy back in 1990. How about that? Another one of my favorite franchises for the Nintendo Entertainment System happens to be The Legend of Zelda with Link and Zelda. And this comic book includes the two characters side by side, which is a real treat. We have wearing green Link and also Zelda, the Princess Warrior, featured together. And this comic book happened to be issue number 1 with a hardstock cover, is right there. And it shows the enemies from the first and second installation of the video game together here. And it was also popular on the Game Boy and Super Nintendo, Nintendo 64, GameCube, and the list goes on. A lot of the characters for Nintendo have been long enduring, not only Super Mario that we have with the movie coming up. And look over here, we have a splash introduction of Link going through the guards right there. And he's noted for going up against Ganon. Ganon has a mystical, dark energy about him as he's trying to control the pieces of the Triforce for the bad. And that's where Link has to collect all the fragments to create a whole Triforce and eventually get to the secret layers of the labyrinth to save Zelda. So a lot of drama. Shigeru Miyamoto created Zelda with a top-down view with exploration because he walked in his own backyard in Japan in the surrounding parks and always enjoyed turning over rocks, looking behind things, and finding in a sense of wonder things to explore. So he incorporated a lot of his childhood memories and elements into Super Mario Brothers and more notably The Legend of Zelda. And look at the artwork there, just kind of coming across a knight on a horse, moving quickly, and you're equipped with a sword and a shield. Loving the artwork there, the action here. We have Link making decisions, and also the video game featured puzzles. It wasn't all hack and slash. There was a lot of puzzles that make the game extra fun. Even there we have there, and look at the happy ending with Zelda. And of course we have Kevin Sorbo with Iron Sword, the cover of a lot of romantic novels out there. So just again, another splash of art for you as we look at The Legend of Zelda. A legend indeed, and a great book. Another series aside from Super Mario Brothers, Game Boy, Zelda, Captain N. So Captain N was based off of a Saturday morning cartoon that featured some other characters outside of Mario that were on the Nintendo. That's where the N gets his name, of course, Nintendo. And we see Lil Mac from Punch-Out appearing here, Pit from Kid Icarus, which is loosely based off of mythology. Metroid, which was an amazing character fighting in space, the Mother Brain, and avoiding the Metroid jellyfish-like alien. So we have these characters in their own comic book. And of course, in that high school-like leather jacket, we have a person that all of us wanted to be, Captain N. And of course, the enemies are kind of growling at trying to get away with their plans, but only to be stopped. We also have here from Metroid Samus's ship, Any fans of Metroid can identify with that. There's a lot of craziness going on. Every panel is jam-packed. Even King Hippo has had enough. He's from the Punch-Out video game. I always liked his controller here. It's on his belt. He's able to change his power-ups and use his zapper accordingly. And the zapper was interesting because it used to be gray when it first came out, but because it was much like a weapon and could cause confusion, Nintendo of North America quickly made it an orange color so that it wouldn't be confused with real-life weapon. And Video Town, that's quite a page. And let's see one more. And that is Captain N and the artwork inside. The next few comic books happen to be more of the traditional comic book that we know. They're made of paper and they're thin. They're not like the ones we saw previously of cardstock. These soft covers are actually in part reprinted from the original ones that came out just a year earlier, some even 6 months earlier. So the whole production of Mario comics wasn't that long, only about a year and a few months span. And here we have the piranha plant. It's very popular in every Mario game. I even have one right here, always lurking out of the pipe to bite your shoe off. And this happens to be a lamp that was gifted to me from a good friend. Peter, thank you. This is awesome. We got to play these games sometime soon. So that's the memories of playing video games. Most notably is playing with friends, and I think that's what makes the whole experience even more worthwhile. Staying up late, playing video games with friends and reminiscing about it was what all the fun was. So here we have Piranha Sue in a book right there. We have Mario again in the pages, and we still have Bill Vallely and also Mark McClellan writing and drawing these stories. So some of which we've already seen before in the previous book. I like this part right here. This is an advertisement for all the books that came out, and this was popular in Mario 3. So in Mario 3 we have a secret passage level where you can select some power-ups from these little treasure chests and look at what you can get. You might get a Super Mario Brothers, you might get a Game Boy, you might get a Zelda, and that's the description above here. Pick a box. It's so true to the video game. A character from Mario 3, a big fish. Good to see that. And Back to the Future. That's time traveling, folks. And in here at Time Travel Comic, this is what it's all about. Traveling to the past to get these great books. We have Mario surrounded by all the Koopas there. Very popular character. Jumping on shells is what the game is all about. And I like this ribbon here. This is interesting because this actually features Metroid. Samus Aran is the character's name, and the story is Metroid. So it's misleading. You'd think Link is really Zelda, Zelda is really Link, Metroid is really Samus, but they had us all confused. Another in-house ad selecting the different comic book covers. These issues I don't have, but they're still fun. To show you Metroid, more space theme. She has different suits that shoot lasers, ice beam, Varia suits. It's more, and more notably, Samus Aran is actually a female protagonist. I had to play the whole game to find out that he was really a she, and she kicked butt. And part of the end series, depending on how well you played, you can see various results in the costume. Samus Aran's enemy happened to be the Mother Brain that controls an alien world. And here we have her in a cartoon form. You have Samus looking good with her Buster gun on her arm. Right there. This is a suit that we know of. She can tuck into a ball to jump high or roll down. So this comic actually happens to feature that character that the other books did not, Samus Aran. Look at that. She's quick, she's fast, she's running and gunning. I remember 2 boss enemies like Riley, I think it was. And another one, you had to defeat those 2 to get to the Mother Brain. And then the Metroid. Beetlejuice. Also having a game on the Nintendo Entertainment System. By then, folks, Nintendo was in every corner of pop culture. You might be scratching your head and wondering, did Mario comics ever have a swimsuit edition? And they did, oddly enough. We typically see that with Archie and some of the other books, but look at that. We have Mario Brothers special swimsuit issue. Again, I like that logo stripe on the bottom. That's the official Nintendo logo and the seal of quality. If you look at the game, because of the 1983 video game crash, Nintendo went out of their way to double check every game to make sure that it was playable and could be licensed so that parents and consumers could know that they had a good game on their hand and they were not just buying junk. Look at that, they're on a boat. If they're on a boat, it looks like they're going to get stranded. And of course they do. So more artwork here, and this happens to be, again, Mark McClellan, Bill Vallely, and John Costanza. King Koopa. So imagine a Mario Brothers movie with this type of action going on. Club Koopa looks like they're being rained on. Look at that dog pulling his swim trunks. This happens to be like a pinup. You can see the suntan going on. Wacky stuff. So the year is 1989. We had video games. We also had sticker albums to enjoy. We had Nintendo Power Magazine to get tips and tricks. And of course, we had comic books. But it has me thinking, well, we have this, but what about toys? What kind of toys were out there? Were they on the shelves? Was it a very popular thing? And the answer, from my first experience, no. There weren't a lot of toys. You had to wait, and you had to wait for McDonald to provide a promotion to get something remotely related to Mario. I was a big fan of Mario Brothers and used to go up and down Toys R Us and KB Toys back in the day, and there wasn't a lot. There were only video games, and those were the big sellers back in the day. Action figures or things like that were not very popular, but McDonald came to the rescue and offered a few toys for us to display and enjoy. Toys were made possible by McDonald's, and in these cardboard boxes is where we could find one toy at a time to enjoy. And this is preserved from my childhood here, and it features Super Mario Bros. 3, one of the best video games that came out on the Nintendo Entertainment System, and in some cases the best ever created due to the complexity of its level design and all the different power-ups that Mario had. And it really cemented the formula for Super Mario for many video games to come. And what we'll see in the Super Mario Brothers movie will be reminiscent and reflecting what was started in Super Mario Brothers 3. And here in the Sahara Desert world, we have the Boomerang Brothers, one of the Koopa minions, as well as the mushrooms that they call the Goombas, with the raccoon tail. So this was neat. It even had some jokes right there to tell your friends, albeit they're rather corny. And then in the back we have mazes and crossword puzzles with Mario colorfully drawn, and just a treat to see. Kind of opening the box carefully, it opens up into a square where the toy would fit inside, like right in there. So looking around, this is how it was, and the top would fold in to create our little Super Mario Brothers box. So right there, when you looked inside and you pulled out your favorite toy, you knew you were in for a Mickey D treat. And Super Mario Brothers 3 featured about 5 toys in total, which we're going to look at right now. And the first one I ever got was this Goomba right here. This is one of the mushroom enemies that comes hurling toward you. And my earliest memory was asking my cousin, how do I jump? Pressing the control pad. I couldn't jump to jump over this Goomba, and it ended up crashing into me, and I died. But I learned to hit the A button, not the up button, and that was forever a part of my video game memory. But this was the first video game enemy I've ever encountered, and most of us out there back in the late 80s and 90s, it was too. But eventually we grew to love our little enemy, and this one, with the suction cup, jumps, you press it down and it flips backwards. It's like a little flippy toy with that. And even the feet is on the back too, and the insignia, made in China, Nintendo, 1989. So that's pretty neat. The next one I was able to get was with Luigi, a little wind-up push-back toy that would spin around, and he's holding an invincible star. Really cute. And this was also inside the McDonald's box as well. Moving on, there was a paratrooper. It was actually a uh, Koopa Troopa. And this one you pump with a little balloon there, and it hops. The little legs move. They kind of move back and forth, and you can jump over and over like that. These were featured in the first video game, and you had to time your jump right so you could avoid crashing with these paratroopas with little wings there. The next item was the jumping Mario with the suction cup on the bottom. You pressed it down all the way, it would stick to the surface, and pretty much like Pop Goes the Weasel, it would pop and jump up in the air. But look at all the detail. These were pretty neat. Even the raccoon tail, which was very popular, as you see in the back there, of Super Mario. If you're under the age of 3 and there's small parts, you receive this little figurine right there. And you could see he's just a Mario with his hand in the air. And I think you could even put him on top of a pencil, but kind of a hollow toy really, and just more of a figurine. So folks, in '89, this is all we had. We had our Happy Meal cardboard puzzles and these toys right there. In 2017, almost decades later, we start to see more Super Mario toys, and including another McDonald promotion right there. We have Mario just displayed right here on the box. Discover the world of Super Mario with more of like a Super Nintendo 64 font, and I have a display here of the toys that came with. From the one-up mushroom that you see there, the red Koopa shell, that's another wind-up toy, just like the Luigi that we saw, Mario, Princess Peach or Princess Toadstool, Yoshi. By pressing Yoshi, he also is able to stick out his tongue, which is really cool. And that's part of the Super Mario World franchise that's debuted with the Super Nintendo in 1990. Koopa, Luigi kind of gliding through a pipe right there, and also an invisible Mario, which is one of the power-ups that he had. So parents, power up the fun for your family. And this is the actual McDonald display. He was lucky to grab it, as I was friends with McDonald's owner, and of course paid for it a little bit. and that was back in the day. So big Mario fan and comic fan, of course, but these are kind of neat to have in the display as you walk into the McDonald's restaurant. This is how they look behind the plexiglass. So we have here the old and the new with the latest one right there. A few miscellaneous toys by McDonald's include Mario jumping up onto the golden block right there, and this features like a little casino, little jackpot machine right there, and that was one of the ones there. Game Boy Advance came out, and this happens to be a little jigsaw puzzle that you put together and you can play with the pieces inside the box, and it resembled the actual box that the Game Boy cartridge came inside. But unlike having a real cartridge, it's more of a puzzle, and there's the title for the Super Mario Advance. So already McDonald's was right on board with the video game, including this little character right there, Mario, with his magic hat that has the eyes on it, probably from one of the later console models. So it's kind of interesting. You're going from this from 1989 to this in the 2000s, with Nintendo dominating the toys coming out. For the Super Mario World, it's more of a, you click them together, featuring Bill Bullet and the Mushroom and Luigi, and it's like a little puzzle toy that was there. If anybody remembers this one, this wasn't from that long ago actually. And you try to create like a Rubik's Cube with the pieces there. The Mario visor, you can put it on your head. You have the M like that, just like we see here. Now we're twinning with the magic hat. So that came with some of the McDonald toys as well. And it's still in the bag. And it features, this is for Mario Kart number 8. So the latest and the greatest, honoring the movie that's coming out pretty soon. McDonald already has a box created with the Super Mario Brothers movie. We can see these very detailed, bright, animated, digitally animated characters. I'm curious to see what the action will be all about. We do know Bowser, or King Koopa, is the bad guy, and he's going to make a dramatic appearance, of course, kind of causing and disturbing the peace of Mushroom Kingdom. So it's always fun exploring the candy-colored, bright worlds of Nintendo Super Mario, and now we're going to see it in a movie rendition. As a comic collector, I also enjoy collecting cards, and collecting for Super Mario can't be complete without these Topps trading cards right here. A mix of stickers as well as cards to be completed in a series. We have the special game pack featuring Mario and the characters. Also includes Legend of Zelda and Punch-Out as well, and Double Dragon, which was a major, more action title for the Nintendo Entertainment System. These cards were a lot of fun because they were scratch-off cards, and much like parents would play the lottery to win a scratch-off number, you were able to get points and win the card game there. Of course, there are no cash prizes. On the back would feature the Nintendo logo right on the bottom, as well as the character and game logo on the top. This happened to be Super Mario Brothers, and some of what you would see when you scratched off the cards. These games were a lot of fun. This is a promotional inside the card pack, which you can get Slimer candy. Also, Mario looks like bubble gum right there. So that was kind of neat. All the Topps vendors of the trading cards would receive this, so the vendor could buy from Topps again. So this was an interesting advertisement, probably more rare because it was meant for the shop owners to order more from Topps. So this display is great. This is how they look back in the day, picking up cards from favorite shows like RoboCop, Smurf, even Saved by the Bell had their own trading cards as well, shows that we see on TV. And you would pick one up, take it to the front counter, and you paid 25 cents to participate in scratch off. It comes with 3 scratch off cards and 2 stickers. No bubble gum for this one though, as they were just strictly more for the scratch off cards. I like the fact that they had different artwork on them, including Link from The Legend of Zelda. Also, Princess Peach is in there, which I'm going to try to find one. And she's right over here. So we already have Mario and Princess Peach right on the cover of the wax wrapper, and also Link. In Canada, they were sold by O-Pee-Chee. O-Pee-Chee also included Metroid, and is considered more rare and valuable as a result, because they were only released in Canada and not all of North America. So this was a part of my childhood as well. And these were different than the activity book that I showed you. These were actually cards that you would collect and just keep in a stack in total. Thank you for watching this video and exploring all things related to Super Mario and Nintendo. These books were part of my childhood, from comics to activity books to magazines offering tips and hints. This characterized my life in 1989 and 1990. For such a short time, a lot of great things came from this time featuring Mario. So looking ahead at the movie coming out, I'm excited to see the next generation and take decades later from when I enjoyed it. And I always remember playing the video game in the basement before my mother yelling to go to my room and turn it off, where I could enjoy these and enjoy the experience even further. So I'm glad you're able to look with me through some things and nostalgia from the past, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Until next time, thank you for time traveling with me, and we'll see each other in the next video.